I really didn't want to have to make this video, but today I will be addressing Jake Claver's lies, fraud, and manipulation. I will not allow my reputation to be attacked, for his frauds to continue to be covered up, and his manipulation of the XRP community to persist. This is something that I didn't want to have to do, but in my own defense, to clear up any confusion about this whole issue, today's video, we will be addressing mostly three things. One, the lies from Jake and Max Avery, his business partner, to me and how they were trying to use me to promote their businesses, both to raise private equity and also to grow their business Digital Wealth Partners. Two, we will address the returns or lack thereof in the Digital Wealth Partner funds. The discrepancies that we are seeing between what Jake is saying publicly about the funds and what investors are sharing with me privately. And third, we will be addressing the manipulation of the XRP community by throwing out ridiculous claims and predictions that are not backed by real insider information, NDAs, and whatever other story he wants to fabricate. I didn't want to make this video, but I hope that this addresses the situation, clears the air, and people can see why I've taken a stance of distancing myself from Jake and his business. And I also will provide solutions on how we can address this situation, how Jake could potentially, set the record straight himself, and I hope that he does the right thing. There's a famous quote that's credited to Mark Twain, which is debated by scholars, but I think that I'm just going to read it off here because it really addresses this issue, and I don't want people to feel like I'm attacking them, whether you're a fan of Jake, whether you're invested with Jake, or even for the employees that work at his company. I want people to understand this, that I was fooled as well. And the quote reads off, "It's easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled." I was fooled into thinking that Jake was an honest man who had good intentions, who was just trying to build his business in private equity when I first met him, and then expanding to financial services that he now offers through Digital Wealth Partners. He fooled me into thinking that he was coming from a good place with the right intentions. And I almost did go into business with them. And the personal issue that I have with him and Max Avery is that they lied to me about their business history, about a lawsuit that involved their private equity dealings when they were trying to use me and get me to come on board to help push and raise capital for their private equity ventures. Now, before we get to the lawsuit that Jake lied to me about, I want to address the public interview that is up on my YouTube channel right now. $100 XRP potential interview with Jake Claver. This aired in March of 2025 this year. This is a prime example of how they used me to grow their platform and also grow their reputation. They knew how trusted I am in the XRP community, which is why they tried to get me on to raise private equity. It's why he tried to get me to come work for Digital Wealth Partners. And in this interview in particular, I have an email correspondence right here that I'm looking at between me and his assistant, Tori, where on February 24th, she sends me an email asking if I have availability to do a podcast with Jake. And then later on, she says, after I confirm, yeah, that sounds good, she says, I will send you an invite and then get an outline for the podcast from Jake. Is there anything specific that you want to talk about? So this was an interview that I thought they had set it up as if I was going to be on his show. And then last minute, the day of, Jake pops on the call and says, oh, I thought this was going to be on your show. And so I had to resend him a link, get him back on a fresh Zoom call so that it could be posted onto my YouTube channel, which at the time I didn't really think anything of it. But now looking back, I realized they had manipulated me into booking this interview that was supposed to be on Jake's show, and then he just played it off and played stupid so that it would air on my platform where he knew it would get a bunch of views and eyeballs, and he knows how trusted and how, I had grown a reputation here in the XRP community. So this is another prime example of how they used me and manipulated me to grow their audience and their reputation and ultimately their businesses. As I mentioned earlier in this video, Jake and Max Avery had fooled me into thinking that they were good guys, just honestly trying to grow and build out their businesses. From the time that I met them at XRP Las Vegas 2023 to when I flew out to Dallas to join and collaborate with them on a mastermind meetup where I brought my community in, he brought his community together, we had a great time, and this led to them then asking me to help them raise capital for their private equity deals. Thank God I avoided that, right? They fooled me to a point, but then when it was time to actually do business together, I conducted my due diligence, and thank God I had trusted advisors around me, experienced securities lawyers who helped me vet out this deal, and they advised that I just stay away. And thank goodness that I did, because I was looking to raise Ripple equity along with PolySign equity with Jake and Max. And so my personal issue with these gentlemen is that they lied to me about their history. I'm not going to get into Max Avery. It's not good. And he tried to tell me that it was just liberal media hit pieces that were put out when he was running for public office, and they dug up some dirt on him, and he tried to play it off and give me excuses on that. I actually had an investigator go look, and it's all real. And it wasn't just a liberal, media hit piece like he tried to tell me it was. So he lied to me about that history. And then Jake and Max lied to me about this deal with Dirk Shepins from Expector, who many of you guys probably know. Expector is the #1 metaverse platform in the XRP ecosystem. They've been around for a while, and Jake and Max were raising private equity for Dirk's company, Expector. They also were raising equity for multiple other companies, and this lawsuit that he lied to me about is public record. I'll post a link for the full docket down below, but I want folks to understand I'm not making anything up. I'm going to read off the public documentation here, and you can go to the answer to the complaint. I'll show you exactly where to go, where you can read off where Jake admits to the wrongdoing in this case. Now, after he admitted to his wrongdoing, then he settled up. Then the case went away after he had to make a payment. I'm guessing that there was probably an NDA involved, and he also made a payment and has an NDA with Dirk Shepins as well, too. See, folks are so focused on his NDAs with insiders and all this, folks should take a look at the NDAs that he had to sign to get this deal to go away, the checks that he had to sign to make this case go away, the XRP that he had to pay Dirk to make Dirk go away, because Dirk was going to come after him. And Verivend, the payment platform company that he was using for private equity deals, did come after him. Because, well, let me just go straight to the case so you guys can see. This is in the Western District of New York, Verivend versus Jacob Levi Claver and Digital Ascension Group. And we're just going to read off the first part of this. Verivend owns and operates a payment processing platform for businesses to raise capital, pay distributions, and deploy capital. Verivend brings this action against its former customers Claver and Digital Ascension for breach of contract, misappropriating Verivend's name and intellectual property, and making false and libelous statements about Verivend to third parties that damage Verivend's goodwill and business reputation. Actions taken by Claver in an effort to cover up his failed attempt to raise capital for other businesses. As part of his cover-up scheme, Claver registered an unauthorized domain using Verivend's trademarked name, which is confusingly similar to the official Verivend domain. Claver then created an email address impersonating Verivend and its employees and used that deceptive email address to manufacture purported Verivend wire transfer confirmations. Claver also sent emails and text messages to third-party companies with images of purported wire transfers approved by Verivend and blamed Verivend for delayed or failed wire transfers. In actuality, however, Claver fabricated the purported wire transfer confirmations and his conversations with Verivend, which never occurred. Indeed, upon information and belief, although defendants had accounts with Verivend, they never raised any capital for those third-party companies using Verivend's platform. Now, before you try to tell me that Jake has already addressed this, please understand that he's lying to you, that this is just some copyright infringement case and it was a misunderstanding. I urge you to go to the public court docket, go to his answer to the complaint, and I want you to go look at everything that he admitted to. Because I've highlighted everything that he's admitted to in this lawsuit. And I'm telling you guys right now, there's a lot that he's admitted to. And this is payments that he fabricated. He created a fake website, fake email, fabricated screenshots of fake wire transfers. And Veryvend found out about this because Dirk was waiting for, all of this equity that Jake was supposed to be raising to come in and these wire transfers to come in. And Jake, instead of admitting that he hadn't raised the capital, he tried to blame Veryvend. And so when Dirk went to Veryvend and said, hey, what's going on here? That's when Veryvend realized the fraud that Jake was committing. And so do not let him try to tell you that this was just a copyright infringement case that was a misunderstanding. This is a serious deal. And think about the mentality of somebody who goes to make the effort to make a fake website, fake email, fake screenshots of wire transfers, and this is somebody that we're supposed to trust? The full docket to this case is free and publicly available. It's all public record on courtlistener.com. Anybody can go take a look at this. Right at the top, you'll see the main document, the complaint that was filed December 13th, 2023. Scroll on down, and you can go through the exhibits. This is all the documentation that Veryvend submitted, making their case for why they had filed this lawsuit against Jake. When you scroll down, on April 11, 2024, you'll see the main document, which is the answer to one complaint by Jacob Levi Claver, Digital Ascension Group, LLC. When you hit that, you can slide on over here, and this is where you'll find his answer to the complaint, where he publicly admits to this wrongdoing. And so you can see the nature of action, and it goes by each point where he either admits or denies or uses some sort of legal lingo to basically deny any claims. But right at the top here, defendant Claver admits that he registered the domain veryvend.support and controlled the email addresses associated with that domain. Defendant Claver further admits that he sent emails to third parties with images of purported wire transfers approved by Veryvend and blamed Veryvend for delayed or failed wire transfers. Defendant Claver further admits that he fabricated purported Veryvend wire transfer confirmations and conversations between himself and Veryvend that never occurred. Defendant Digital Ascension admits it had accounts with Veryvend, and they deny the remaining allegations of paragraph 3. But I encourage you, go look through on all of these points that they admit to, right? When you see it right there, admitted, right? And you go through this whole answer, and you can see that he admits to a lot of the charges that were brought against him. Defendant Claver admits that on November 7, 2023, he sent Shepins a picture of a Veryvend wallet indicating $1,075,310 as fully paid. Defendant Claver admits he manufactured the image. Defendants denied the remaining allegations of paragraph 32. Go on, admitted. Look at how many they admit to right here. Because he's trying to say that this was just a misunderstanding. Absolutely not. Go down to page 6 here. Defendant Claver admits that the November 13th email stated, "Please see below wire confirmation," and included an image that appeared to be a screenshot of a wire confirmation. Defendants, sure. And then you slide on down. Defendant Claver admits that there was no wire transfer for $1,100,000 authorized by Veryvend to Throughput on or about November 11, 2023. So they're admitting to all this, and specifically to fabricating these screenshots of wire transfers. And so we're talking about $1 million payments to Throughput that never happened, and another $1 million payment to Dirk Shepins, Expector, that never happened. So this wasn't just like a one-off instance. He was faking these for the money that he was supposed to be raising for Throughput Inc., and also for Expector. And when Dirk Shepins, right, went to Veryvend and said, what's going on here? He's saying that you guys have had issues. He's tried sending this wire transfer. What's happening here? Why haven't I received this money? That's when Veryvend realized that Jake was impersonating them and that he had fabricated these screenshots and faked these $1 million wire transfers. Back on the public court docket, you can go to Exhibit E to see emails that Dirk had submitted to Veryvend, and Veryvend was able to use this as evidence in their case. And it really gets disturbing when you go to Exhibit F, which gives screenshots between Dirk and Jake and text messages that they had been sending back and forth between each other this entire time. Now, if you go down to page 3, you will see where Dirk says that they're off to a good start after Jake says that they are over 3.2 million committed and over 1 million collected. Still conversations going on. And Dirk says, that's a good start. Long way to go to 6 million. And so the objective here was to raise at least $6 million for Expector. Now, this is the part that I find kind of disturbing, and I'm really wondering what's going on here because Jake says, LOL, you're telling me that's still not counting the other 800,000 if I can get the loans against XRP figured out. So is he trying to convince people to take loans against their XRP to invest in private equity deals like Expector and others? This to me is pretty concerning, but when you continue on page 9, you can see where Jake is sending a screenshot of his wallet balance, and this is where he lies, saying that capital is back in my account now. Rodney, who is the CEO of Veryvend, said that they fat-fingered the IBAN number after reviewing it. He asked Dirk if you want me to push it again that way or move to my bank account and convert to USDC. Dirk says, no, best in fiat. We need that to pay people, and converting ourselves too much if an issue. On page 12, they reiterate once again, hope the 800,000 gets secured as well against the loans. And so they're addressing these whole conversation about taking out loans against XRP to go buy private equity. On page 16, you see a text here from Dirk to Jake that says, if you put it at 6.5 million plus, it gets very interesting for you as well. So basically suggesting that the more that Jake was going to be able to raise, the more this deal was going to be juiced for him. On page 18, you see that Jake had been sent to the F1 racing in Vegas by Dirk to go pitch this deal to investors. Here's some screenshots that he had sent to Dirk showing him that he was there pitching it. Now, if you scroll on down to page 23 and 25, it shows the fake wire transfer that Jake had sent to Dirk. I'm not going to show that because it shows some information that I don't want to put out there. But go to that Exhibit F in the public court docket, and you can go read through the whole conversation between Dirk and Jake, and you can see his intentions, trying to get people to take loans against their XRP to buy private equity, and the lies and the fake screenshots of the wire transfers that Jake was sending to Dirk. At the bottom of the public court docket, you can see the last filing submitted on February 12, 2025, which is the mediation certification noting that the case has been settled up. So Jake had to settle this up, probably had to cut a check, maybe has one of those NDAs that he loves to talk about signed, to get this case to go away. And obviously there was pretty serious charges in this case, and so I understand why he wanted to get this one settled up and put away as soon as possible. I also can confirm that he paid Dirk in XRP to settle up with Dirk and to get Dirk to go away. I don't know what happened with Throughput Inc., but that was the other company that he failed to raise private equity for, and I'm not sure what happened with that company. But you can see now why this was just unfortunate when I found this out, after Jake had been blaming Dirk as the bad guy and the a-hole, and that it was Dirk's fault while the deal fell apart. And he completely covered this up when he was asking me to help him raise private equity. Once again, I almost went into business with this person that took the time to create fake websites, fake emails, and fake screenshots of wire transfers when he was failing to raise private equity. That's something that I wish I would have known. And thank God I steered clear of going into business with these guys just on conducting my own due diligence outside of this public court case that he had to go get settled up. So for those who have been calling me gutless, a backstabber, and asking, why do you hate Jake now? I don't hate Jake. I'm not going to hold a grudge, but I'm also not going to trust the guy or ever go into business with him, right? I have distanced myself from him because after I found this out, I realized who I was dealing with. And now do you see that I remain faithful to people? I have an allegiance to the truth, and I'm not going to do anybody wrong unless you lie to me and you try to use me and manipulate me and my platform to your benefit. That's when I have a problem. So no, I'm not a backstabber. I'm not gutless because I didn't want to have to make this video. But for the reasons that I'm going to talk about next, this is why I've had to go public, is because Jake and his scheme, his business has grown so big. They've taken in so much XRP from our community. And there's a massive discrepancy from what he's saying publicly and what investors are telling me privately. Now, I have been receiving the reports from these funds and how they've been performing. I'm not going to share them publicly because I worry about retaliation. Because Jake and DWP is already sending out threats to his investors, telling them not to share the reports publicly. And they're actually going as far as to watermark with a timestamp the reports and emails that they're sending out to all of their investors because they're so concerned about the truth getting out about these funds and the fact that they're not actually producing the returns that Jake is talking about publicly. I know for a fact that one of the funds, one of his growth funds, has been losing money all year. Lost money in Q2, lost money in Q3. It's lost over 4% on the year. And this doesn't account for the subscription fees and the AUM fees of 2% in some cases that the investors have to pay as well. So not only are they not producing 3 to 5%, they're actually losing money on some of these funds. And there's a lot of confusion around these funds. When I ask investors in these funds, how's it going? Where's the yield being generated from? Or the returns in this case? How's the reporting going? These reports continue to be delayed. And then when they do come out, right, the numbers are not matching up with what Jake is saying publicly. And now they're telling their investors not to go public with this information. But why is Jake out here able to publicly talk about these funds and lie about the returns that they're bringing, but the investors aren't? Right? Why is he allowed to talk publicly, but everybody else has to stay quiet? And why is he lying about this once again? As I showed you with this lawsuit, we're talking about a guy who was willing to go as far as fabricating wire transfers, and now we're supposed to be on a trust me bro relationship with his investors in DWP, and trust me bro, we got returns coming your way. And mind you, I haven't had one person reach out to me that's invested in his funds that has had anything really positive to say and been able to confirm payments and distributions coming out. Not one. And so I've applied this scrutiny to everybody that is promising returns or yield on our XRP, whether it be DeFi, whether it be centralized exchanges, or centralized platforms like Digital Wealth Partners. I'm applying the same scrutiny across the board. Doppler Fine, I don't want to name other companies, but you have other companies out here that are putting out reports and they're putting out results publicly and actually paying out distributions on weekly basis or on a consistent basis. So without third-party audited financials of these funds, I'm not going to take Jake at his word, not after knowing what I know. And I don't think that the investors should either. And so this is issue number 2, is that he has collected hundreds of millions, and he claims that they have $1 billion AUM total at Digital Wealth Partners. Not all of that is in the XRP funds, but for what is in the XRP funds, we're talking about at least tens of millions, maybe even hundreds of millions of XRP that has been put up here, where Digital Wealth Partners takes a loan against that XRP and then goes out and tries to trade to generate returns. And it doesn't appear that they've been successful, which is fine. People invest in private funds all the time that lose money. That's okay, as long as you're admitting that that's what's taking place and you're not publicly lying about the quote-unquote returns that you are bringing to the XRP community. The last issue that I want to address in regards to Jake is the manipulation of the XRP community. And the reason why I use the word manipulation is because I believe that he's created this character, this image, that's all one big lie, portraying himself as some sort of insider with NDAs, and that's why he has all of the answers. And I should note that I have no problem with people that have a business and make money, right? There's many ways that he is making money off of the XRP community. No problem with that. The problem is the manipulation of the XRP community to lure them into his business funnel with FOMO and a sense of urgency that is not necessary. And I believe that he's done a terrible job of representing the XRP community by running around on all these podcasts and pushing out a bunch of content and narratives that were never true. And I've called out this prediction all year long. I'm not just waiting just because we're right here at the end of the year, right? I've said all year long that we would not see more than a $20 or $30 XRP. Did we miss the targets that I had for 2025? Yes. If you were in crypto and you believed in this space, you probably missed your targets on where crypto was going to go. And so I have no problem that he put out a prediction and a target and it missed. I put out some predictions and targets that missed. That's fine. The issue is the manipulation and the level of certainty that he sold these narratives with to lure you into his business funnel, which in my opinion is overcharging for a lot of services. I'm not going to get into that here, but I'm just going to show you the tweet and play the clip from his live show last night where he said that he's 99.99% sure still that we're going to see a $100 XRP before the end of the year. And if you think that there is even a slight possibility of that happening, please wake up. So here's the tweet that I put out, and here's the clip from Jake's live show last night. I said, it is sad to see Jake Claver still misleading people calling for $100 XRP before the end of the year. I said that this prediction would be wrong all year long, but I am shocked that he hasn't admitted defeat yet. Can anyone justify this? There is not a chance of this happening. Here's the clip from Jake's live show last night.
Or we'll go ahead and address it. Why not? Matcha King says, Zach Rector's tweet, so sad to see Jake still misleading people calling for $100 XRP before the end of the year. I'm shocked he hasn't admitted defeat yet. Well, he's right. If I was going to pivot, should have pivoted by now, unless I know something. Why wouldn't I? Interesting. So we'll see what ends up happening by the end of the year. We'll see where the price is. And I think results will speak for themselves.
So when he was called out directly by me, instead of admitting that his prediction wasn't going to come through, you saw him, you heard it, he just doubled down. And it is my opinion that the only reason he is doing this is because the lie, the Jake Claver lie and facade has grown so big, and his business model is so reliant upon that manipulation, he can't back out now. And he's going to look very foolish for his 2025 predictions. He's going to look foolish once again in 2026 because I'm sure that he'll double down once again. And that's fine. Nothing wrong with predictions. Nothing wrong with putting out targets. I do the same thing. Miss some targets in 2025, but I never was using levels of certainty, FOMO, and urgency to push these predictions to drive people to a business model. This is manipulation of the XRP community, and it's a poor representation on behalf of the XRP community that I find to be embarrassing. The crazy part about this whole situation and what sparked me to make this video is I am taking so much backlash from people who are associating me with Jake, saying that he's my buddy and bro, and he's my guy, and why am I backstabbing him just because I simply said his prediction wasn't going to play out? I didn't mention anything about the funds other than privately to my group. I didn't want to blow this thing up and cause division in the community. I didn't want to get involved in drama. I live a very happy, peaceful life with my family. I don't want to be involved in this. It's just, he tried to use me. The first problem and issue was the lie. He deceived me about his background and this lawsuit that he covered up. The second part is these funds and the fact that they're not generating the returns that he is claiming publicly. But then last is this whole prediction and the manipulation of the XRP community. And just by simply saying that I didn't agree with the prediction, I had all these people in the community coming out attacking my credibility, saying I was gutless, I was backstabbing him. Why do you hate Jake? And so that's why I put out this video here today, to provide the context. And I also said that I wasn't going to put out this video without providing the solution and the remedy to this situation as well. Here are the 3 things that I would like to see happen. And the first one is the least important. I really don't care, but if he does want to apologize to me on a personal level, that'd be great. I don't appreciate what happened. I'm disappointed in how it's all played out, but it's water under the bridge. I'll let it go on a personal level, not the biggest deal. What I'm really concerned about is these XRP funds. And just to be clear, I want people to be making a bunch of money in those XRP funds. I don't want to see our community to have to go through any more issues than we already have. And I'm excited. I think that they're filling a gap, providing financial services. I don't agree with all of it, but I want people to win. And I just want to make sure that people aren't losing their XRP and losing money. And I'm not going to believe anything that's coming out of those funds as far as reporting until I see a third party audit those financial statements in that report. So I want a third party audit of those funds. Otherwise, I'm not going to believe or trust what is being reported. Lastly, I really hope that the FOMO and the hopium that is used to manipulate our community stops. Bring it back to the fundamentals. Bring it back to, the utility. And Jake is smart. I think that he's done a good job in some aspects. But we have to stop the BS. We have to stop the fake hopium narratives that are baseless. Sure, you can have conversations that give you some insights. I've signed NDAs too. But let's be honest with ourselves about what's really happening, about the timeline that we're actually on, and let's stop selling narratives that are fake to drive people into our business model. To me, that's not a right way to run a business. And so we'll see what happens. I really am rooting for the entire XRP community, the fans of Jake, people invested with Jake. I really want this to work out. And I'm putting out this video here at the end of 2025 so that I can put this behind me. I've had to spend way too much time, energy, and effort covering this, responding to this, and I want to put this all behind me and enter 2026 focused on the real momentum that we have in our community, the real strength that the XRP community has. And I want us to stay together. I don't want us to be divided. And so I leave this in 2025 hoping we can leave it behind. Jake will do the right things and the XRP community will win. Thank you, and God bless you all.